Jason, I just want you to be aware of the level of dedication I have to this podcast.
Oh, God. What?
Today, I drove all the way across town to pick up a new Xbox controller for a topic that we'll talk about a little bit later.
Did your previous one not work?
No, well, my previous one doesn't have Bluetooth. It's an old 360 controller,
Oh,
so
it's an
like
older one, yeah.
so old that it doesn't have Bluetooth. So I needed to get, well, I needed to get one that had Bluetooth. So I drove all the way across town to a Target to do like an in-store pickup to pick up this Xbox controller. And it's the blue color because they didn't even have the black color in stock.
Oh, God. Wow, that's dedication. Okay, there it is.
Yeah, although they had it $10 off, so it was worth it, I guess.
Yeah, because blue and red cars or Xbox controllers aren't worth as much.
Well, but they were selling the shock green one or whatever, like the obnoxious electric green one for like $75. I was like, no, thank you. So this blue one was only like $50. The black one would have been $50 also if they had it, but they didn't have it in stock for pickup today. So I couldn't get that one. But the interesting thing about this blue controller, and I don't hate blue controllers, but it has a white back.
Oh, okay.
So like it's blue on the front, which actually looks pretty good. And the buttons, all the A, B, X, Y buttons are all blue. And then they have this weird little thing that shows you the colors like in the center of the 4 buttons. So like it has like, you know, a yellow dot just below the Y and like a red dot to the left of the B. It's very strange. But then on the back side, it's just like totally white. But then the shoulder buttons are black. So it's got 3 colors on this one controller. And I don't understand.
You sure this just wasn't the controller where they like had a whole bunch of extra parts and they were just like, hey, we got this supply chain stuff. We got blue and white and black. Let's just make a controller out of it.
They really might have. I mean, I was actually kind of looking forward to having an all blue controller because I had one for my PS4 and I liked it. But this one is not all blue. It's white on the back, which is going to, I'm sure, get like colored by something, and it's going to be dingy looking in like a year.
That's what I worry about the most is that white just gets so grimy and gross. I mean, heck, even my black one gets gross.
Yeah, your black one though has the fancy rubber whatever on it though.
Yeah, they're hard to. The worst part about this black one with the rubber is it's like textured rubber. It's hard to clean.
Yeah, I haven't bought a new Xbox controller obviously in several years, so I was impressed that this one has like a very distinctive texture to the plastic, but it's not rubberized. It's just like bumpy plastic. And I actually kind of like it, the feel of it anyway. And it also has the same kind of texture on the left and right triggers also. So my previous one had shiny plastic.
Oh, that's cool. I don't know that I'm used to that. Yeah, mine has shiny plastic. Oh, maybe not. No, it doesn't. It does have texture. Look at that. Wow.
Yeah, I've wanted to get a new controller for a long time for Rocket League just because I felt like my existing controller was kind of like, you know, wearing out a little bit. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like drifting or anything, but I just felt like it was like, this one is like 5+ years old at least. Like it probably needs to be replaced. So now I have this new one and I'm going to try it with some Rocket League and I'm sure it'll make me much better at playing Rocket League.
Of course, that's the key. Welcome to Pride and Accomplishment. My name is Jason.
And I'm Chris. This is episode 76.
You sent a picture in the Discord that I am currently staring at.
I've sent several pictures.
Yes, that's true. But I'm currently staring at one in the general chat that makes me incredibly jealous, but also extremely happy on what game you chose to show off first. So do you want to explain what I'm looking at?
Yes. So what you're looking at here is a picture that I took of my brand new Steam Deck playing Factorio.
I'm so happy that you chose Factorio as the picture to show off.
Yeah, I was trying to think like, you know, what game would be a good like just like everybody would kind of get it on our Discord server and like something that wasn't too niche and something that was like everybody would understand. And so I loaded up an old save of a Factorio game and I posted it with the caption, "The future is now."
It's just so pretty.
It really is.
Okay, the world needs to know, is this a save of a Factorio game that you had previously played, or did you actually play some Factorio for a while?
You're going to make me come clean, huh? This is a save that actually came over from my Steam cloud, whatever. I didn't sync it over. I didn't do anything. It was just there when I went to go load a game.
Okay, that's why I asked, because I was curious as to whether, because the part of the Steam Deck is like the save experience or the moving back and forth. So that's really good to hear, actually. But Factorio is a game that is like, they're like, this is like one of the featured games. It's been in advertisements. It's like definitely supposed to be premium experience on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, you would think that. But so I would say, okay, first up, Factorio, it is playable on the Steam Deck. It runs amazingly well. Like the game engine, everything else, like it runs really, really well. I will put a picture to this in our Discord that you can get to at discord.pnapodcast.com.
Good plug.
And I will put that in the general chat of that Discord also so that people can see it. But it runs, you can actually see in the screenshot, it shows that it's using 6.2 watts of power out of the possible 15, I think, that the Steam Deck is capable of, which means that Factorio would actually get very good battery life playing on the Steam Deck. So when I say it runs great, like it really does run really, really well, because Factorio is all sprite based. Like it's all just 2D sprites basically. And so the Steam Deck can keep up with it no problem. Where it kind of falls down, and then again, I will confess, I was trying really hard to avoid like touching the touchscreen because I was like, oh, I don't want to get it, fingerprints on it, and I don't want to get it all, messed up, and I don't have a screen protector and yada yada. So like I didn't want to do that. So I didn't tap on like the little building options. But where it falls down is kind of those controls. So like you can move around using the sticks like you would on a gamepad. And then you can use the trackpads on the Steam Deck to, move the mouse pointer and click on stuff. But like, it's hard. It's a little floaty. Like the mouse pointer is a little floaty. So I wouldn't say that it's like the perfect Factorio experience.
Sure, I'll give you that. But you've never played like you don't play Minecraft. Did you ever, the 7 Days to Die, did you play that with a controller or mouse and keyboard?
I probably played it with mouse and keyboard, but I have played games like that with a controller, though. Maybe it was 7 Days.
With the bottom menu that you essentially, with a keyboard, you're going to use your number buttons, but with your controller, you're either going to have to somehow click on them or you use your paddles, I assume, or your bumpers in the back to rotate through. The inventory management of a game like Factorio or 7 Days on a controller is, in my opinion, just a worse experience.
Yeah, there's a few things that you can do to mitigate that, and I think I want to lead off the discussion of the Steam Deck and control schemes with I've got a couple of things, and remind me to come back to the external controller experience because that's a major point that I did want to talk about. But one thing that they do have is the ability to turn the trackpads into radial menus. So you can make it so that you essentially press your finger on the trackpad and it opens up as many keys as you have assigned. So like you can choose, oh, I want this to be, this key and this to be that key. And you can have up to like 12, I think, on a radial menu.
Oh, that's cool.
And it'll actually show a little overlay. So like if you've ever played a phone game where they kind of overlay the little stick, on the screen, it's that kind of thing. But your finger's not on top of this thing. Your finger is on the trackpad. And then where you move your finger, it moves a little virtual joystick to show what you're about to select. And then when you let go, or maybe when you click down, I don't remember exactly what the controls is, but when you do something, it will then make that choice for you and lock that in and press that key. So it's pretty cool.
Is it a configurable number of keys, or is it like always 4 or always 6?
Oh, it's totally configurable. Like I actually played something else and it had 2. Like it just had like top half, bottom half.
Chris, you're gonna kill me, but like immediately, like the radial mount menu from Guild Wars comes to mind.
Yep.
But like the ability to add keys, important keys, to be clickable right away, is actually makes potentially playing an MMO on it not terrible.
Yes, actually, the game in which I was referring to the 2-option radial menu was Guild Wars.
What did it do that automatically?
No, there was a community button layout that I had to pick.
And what were the two buttons that it suggested?
Oh goodness, it was. Oh, I don't remember. I think it was E was one of them for some reason. It was something. It was something that did. No, it was H. It was definitely your hero screen, so like your character screen, and then it wasn't your inventory, but it was. Oh, it was like backslash to do the chat for some reason.
Oh,
which makes no sense at all, because then you would have had to type on an on-screen keyboard, and that just doesn't. There's no reason. I guess it makes the chat bigger. Like you press it and you press it again, and it dismisses it. So like if you wanted to like read something in chat, but it would not be feasible to without an external keyboard to be able to type something. I would say. I mean, you can do it, but I would not.
That I've seen some other ones where the A, whatever the A, B, X, Y. Are like 4 buttons, and then you have some more on the radio menu that's some of your other attacks, and then your left radio menu is like your hero panel, your inventory, your maybe some of your mounts, which it never crossed my mind that those could be used like that, and it makes something that maybe you don't need your whole keyboard, but you needed more than like 8 buttons. You need like 15 buttons, but those radio menus just make it possible.
Yeah, they really open it up. The other thing that they do is they have the ability to set layers up, so you can say like, okay, my ABXY are my, say, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can say, okay, but while I'm holding down on the D-pad, then ABXY becomes 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can like make it into this whole thing where you like are pressing and holding buttons and pushing other buttons, and it's crazy, but you can do all that stuff. And that all comes from the Steam OS or like the Steam layer, not from the games themselves. So you don't really have to change all of your mappings. You just have to change like the controller setup, and then the controller will just feed the game keyboard commands.
Okay, so that's for games where maybe mouse and keyboard were maybe better. Have you played games where controllers were the obvious choice, and I assume it performs perfectly in those cases?
Yeah, so I haven't quite figured it out. I mean, I think so. The Steam Deck is a device of trade-offs, and unlike a game, a thing like Switch, where they've already made all the choices for you, the Steam Deck is like super customizable, and like the whole point of it is that you can kind of do anything you want with it, and that is a blessing and a curse, because you can spend a lot of time screwing with the settings, and also you can get to the point where you have a game and you're just like, why is this game so bad? Like, why does it looks bad, like it feels laggy, what is going on? And it's probably something that you have done, and that's just one of these things that, like, I think half the fun of this thing is dialing in the settings you like, and I don't know if I was ready for that when I first got it. Like, I'm okay, like I can be that person, but where I'm going with all this, you asked about games that are controller based. I tried to load up Rocket League, which is actually Steam Deck approved, and like, another one of the ones that they kind of promote and be like, yeah, you can totally do this. And it works, but it felt like really floaty and laggy and not that great. But I had the Steam Deck in 40 FPS mode, where it like locks it on the GPU side to 40 FPS. And I think that's why it was feeling laggy, because I bumped it up to 60 and I started getting a lot better at Rocket League. So it used more battery, but it also was much more responsive, which I guess makes sense. And so anyway, yes, you have enough settings that you can really screw yourself up in lots of things on the Steam Deck, which is, I mean, that's fine. I like that. I think it's better to have more settings than less settings, but having a recommended set of settings might be good for lots of things. And I don't think they've quite got the infrastructure for that just yet. Or not every game has supported it if they do.
Are many of these settings per game, right? You don't have to go in and like every time you boot Rocket League, did you have to turn that setting off or start setting on? Because you said it was at the GPU level.
No, so there's 2 buttons that are kind of not controller buttons on the Steam Deck. So there's a Steam button on the left of the screen below the left trackpad, and then there's this little ... button on the right side. And both of those will bring up different quick menus. The ... button is kind of like your quick settings button. And when you do that, it has an option for like battery life management. And that's where you choose like what level of performance overlay you want to see. So like if you want to see like just the frame rate, you can see just the frame rate. If you want to see the frame rate and the power usage, you can do that. If you want to get all the way down to like what amount of clock speed every core is running and how much power the CPU is drawing versus the GPU versus the, I don't know, whatever else, the fan probably. You can have it show that as like an overlay on the entire left quarter of the screen. So if you really want to like tune it, you can get into that. So all of that stuff is, again, OS level, that the game doesn't know anything about it. And then in that same menu, though, where you're choosing what level of performance view you want to see, you can also choose things like limit the frame rate, which is actually something that just came out in an update like last week, to be able to do that on the fly without restarting the game. So you can limit the frame rate. You can set a maximum frame rate. So you can set it 15, 30, 60, whatever. And then you can also set a few settings like how much you want it to do that FSA thing, which is like the super sampling thing that AMD does, to make it so that you can render at a lower like resolution, and then you upscale it with AI or something. It's supposed to help games like Elden Ring and stuff like that. So that's how they get it to run at 60 frames per second on the Steam Deck. It's really cool, and all of that stuff is per game if you want it. So like you can have like basically a system-wide setting, and so like by default the game will take your system setting, but then if you switch a little switch on, then that lets you set, oh, this game needs to be at 60 or whatever.
I mean, okay, it's slightly different, but the control schemes then that you set up for Guild Wars that will launch and close and all of that was pretty seamless when you changed games and saved and restored and.
Yeah, basically, so the Steam Deck is running a version of Steam that has your library and has your games, and you can install games from Steam just like you would. You can also add external apps just like you would on your PC, and then you can set all those things up, and they all have controller profiles associated with them. They all have performance profiles associated with them. It's all just metadata that's stored in the Steam side.
Okay, before we move on, you wanted to talk about external controllers.
Yeah, in the pre-show, I mentioned that I went and bought a new Xbox controller, and that was primarily, at least, urgently motivated by the idea that I wanted to be able to pair that Xbox controller with the Steam Deck and then try Rocket League with an external controller. So one downside, did you ever have a Steam controller?
I did. I did not like it.
Right. Do you remember the vibrations on the Steam controller?
No.
Yeah, they're very forgettable because they were very bad.
Okay.
So the Steam controller actually had they were actually kind of cool in that they had these little motors behind the trackpads so that they felt like they were kind of doing something when you were trackpadding on them, which is cool. And the Steam Deck has the same thing. So that came from the Steam controller. The problem is the Steam Deck itself, I think, does not have very good rumble motors compared to like an Xbox controller. So like an Xbox controller like has a really serious motor for the vibrations, and I think the Steam Deck just has like the little things they use for the trackpads or something. But I was playing Rocket League and I was just like, these vibrations are just not right. Like whatever it is, maybe it's the translation layer, maybe it's the motors themselves, something is wrong. And I wanted to try it with the Xbox controller so that I could give a good like review of doing that. So I got an Xbox controller and I tried to pair it with Bluetooth, and it worked, but then it wouldn't show up. And I went and did a quick Google and found that was because the firmware on the controller needed to be updated. So I had to boot into my Windows computer and have it update the firmware on the controller so the controller would actually connect via Bluetooth to the Steam Deck, which all worked. That's fine. But now I'm having trouble getting Rocket League to recognize the Xbox controller. Like I got it to work once, but it was super laggy. It was like actually like the rumble was coming in seconds after like it was supposed to in the game, I think, or something was getting rumbling more than it should have. It was very not what I expected playing Rocket League.
Was your input lagged too?
Yes, the input was a little bit lagged.
Okay, I've heard that's a Bluetooth thing.
It might be. It very well may be. But I was, 6 inches away.
I know. That's why. So my controller has Bluetooth, and that's why I got an Xbox like wireless dongle anyway, because it uses whatever the other wireless technology is instead of Bluetooth, and it's much faster. I would suggest just for a moment plugging the controller in. I assume it's USB-C to USB-C.
Yep.
I would just for a moment try plugging it in and seeing if the same problem exists. I'm going to bet it goes away. And I know that's not how you want to play or game, but it's a troubleshooting step.
I actually have one of those Xbox dongle things, so I might just try that.
Yeah, I've found that for some reason the Bluetooth I've been really hit or miss on sometimes it's just way too laggy to use as a real-time input device. Keyboard, it's close enough, but for like a driving game, it's those milliseconds matter.
Oh, this was more than milliseconds. I mean, this was pretty bad. So anyway, but yes, I wanted to be able to say that, I cooked up an Xbox controller over Bluetooth and it was perfect, but I have yet to be able to get that to work. In the meantime, I've been trying to reorder the controller order, because I guess when you put a external controller on the Steam Deck, then the Steam input subsystem sees like the Steam Deck as a controller and the Xbox controller as a controller, and you have to like set the order of precedence for them. And I've yet to be able, except for that first time, to get the Xbox controller to be like the primary, like to be the thing that's actually controlling it. And more often than not, I tried it like 4 or 5 times. I got Rocket League to like just not take any input, and I just had to force quit it. So like I said, I think half the fun of this thing is messing around with settings, and I think I may have found yet another setting that needs to be messed around with. So not super excited about that, but oh well.
How did you get Guild Wars to run?
So Guild Wars was an interesting one. I thought it was going to be really hard. Like I was looking for like guides of how to do it. I was looking for like different posts, because like every week or so, it seems on the Steam Deck Reddit, they have somebody has a picture of Guild Wars running, or maybe on the Guild Wars Reddit, one or the other. There's a lot of photos of people that have, hey, look, it's Guild Wars running on my Steam Deck. But none of them have a very detailed guide. Like some of them say like, oh, here's how to do it with wine, and here's how to do it with whatever, like on Linux. Like I followed the page in the wiki about getting it running on Linux. Somebody needs to just write one, and maybe it should be me, but somebody needs to just write a page.
It could be your thing.
How to make Guild Wars work on a Steam Deck, because it's not that hard. So what I had to do, so Steam has this amazing compatibility layer thing called Proton, which is a fork of Wine, and it lets you just like run a Windows exe like under Linux, and it just works. It's black magic. Like it's amazing. So what you have to do is download the Guild Wars installer, add it as a game to your Steam library so that Steam will run it with Proton. Then it runs the installer. You tell it where to put the files, and then it will download those or install them or whatever. Then change the shortcut in your Steam library from the installer to the executable that it puts, the GW2.exe or whatever. And then it just works. That's it.
Wow.
So like it runs and it like pops up the launcher, and the launcher is like, the Guild Wars launcher. And then you click log in and it logs you in, and you click play and you're in.
Wow. I'm amazed on how seamless that is. Like that Proton layer has to be doing heavy lifting.
Yeah, so it's using the DirectX 11 in Guild Wars 2, because I think that DirectX translates better than OpenGL. I really don't know for sure, but yeah, it's using the DX11, and it looks pretty good. It was a little choppy when you have a lot of stuff on screen, so I did turn down a few settings, and it drastically improved my frame rates.
That's true even on my desktop. That's Guild Wars.
Yeah, so it works. Speaking of control schemes being challenging, I don't know that I could do anything other than inventory management and maybe fishing, just because controlling the mouse pointer using the touchpad is I'm just not good at it, but it's tough.
Yeah, but fish like that would be great.
It would be great.
Able to fish on your Steam Deck.
What I really want is a way to like, there's probably a way to do it, but a way to basically toggle those layers I was talking about. So I want to be able to just toggle into fishing mode and then have all the buttons do stuff for fishing, and then toggle out of fishing mode and have the buttons do other stuff.
Oh yeah.
as opposed to having to hold down a button in order to set a layer. So maybe there's a way to do that. But yes, fishing, it would be really, really cool to be able to do fishing on the go.
Yeah, I'd fish. I'd be laying in my bed fishing. Just it'd be amazing.
Fishing all
I
night.
could technically do that now, like with Steam Remote Play or whatever. But
oh yeah, I expect that the Guild Wars thing will get easier once Guild Wars is actually on Steam. Because
true,
that's
good
coming.
point. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, that'll probably make it easier. The question will be, are you able to log into your existing Guild Wars account through Steam?
We have been told no.
So that's going to screw it up.
That might change.
So Guild Wars was easy to get set up. I also installed a couple of other desktop-centric games, like Dota 2, something I would never, ever even attempt to play with a controller. Although I think
it doesn't seem that bad.
It has 4 buttons. Yeah, it has 4 skills. Like, you could do it.
4 skills, and then you could use a radial menu for your items. The hardest part would be the shop.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to just drop into a trackpad for the shop and just click on stuff. Because oftentimes you type in the shop for, items that you know that you need, or you use a guide and the guide just has all the stuff laid out for you. So maybe you could do it with a guide.
I don't think Dota would be that bad.
Now I'm going to have to do it.
Would you use a click to move, or would you just straight up like move with a controller?
If there's a setting to move with a controller, I would do that.
Because a lot of ARPG style games, like top down, like whatever, like Lost Ark is a good example of this. If you're using a controller in Lost Ark, it's no longer click to move. It's controller stick to move. So I wonder if Dota would do that.
That is an interesting question.
It may. I don't know if it's a competitive thing, but I mean, Lost Ark has PvP, so that'd be a fun little thing to try.
Yeah, I did try attaching the Steam Deck to like external screens. So I have like a little USB-C docking station that I use with my MacBook and with my work laptop, and that worked. Like the Steam Deck just like started outputting to the screen as if it was a screen, and I went into desktop mode on the Steam Deck. Not that I had to, but I decided to, and I was able to get 2 external screens plus the Steam Deck screen working through this little docking station, and then used a keyboard and mouse connected with USB to the docking station, and it was like straight up a computer.
Was it chugging? Like, was it having trouble running 3 screens?
No, it was doing fine because I wasn't asking it to like do much game stuff. Although I did run Dota in that mode, and it was chugging a little bit on Dota, but I couldn't tell if that was actually GPU limited or if it was because it was driving 3 screens. Because like only the one was doing 3D stuff. It was only one main screen.
I mean, that's one of the biggest powers for me for this thing is it's finally a device that is essentially a travel computer, but it's the size of 2 switches.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's something that I'm looking forward to. I have some travel coming up, and I'm debating whether I want to even take my laptop. I'm like, could I get by with just the Steam Deck? And I'm not sure that I could. Like, I think there's a lot of things where I would rather kind of have an actual laptop, especially my MacBook running, Mac things and doing podcast stuff and whatever. But it's almost there. And I think if I had a stable Windows environment running on the Steam Deck, I probably could say, yes, I can take this instead of a laptop.
Have you done any of that fancy stuff yet? Have you tried, booting into Windows or anything like that?
I have not tried any of that because 1, I've only had the thing for 2 days, and 2, the official support for the Steam Deck running Windows is like, oh, wipe your whole Steam Deck and have it only have Windows on it.
Oh.
And then you have to do a whole recovery thing to get the Linux back on it to make it run SteamOS, because they have a bootloader. Like you can run a bootloader on there that will let you choose which OS, and people do it, and you can find all sorts of examples and guides and whatever on Reddit. But it's very not supported, and it's like something where occasionally you'll see people post and be like, help, I'm stuck. I can't get back to SteamOS, or, no, I can't get into Windows, or, I can't do anything with my Steam Deck. Do I just have to reset it? And it's like, yes, you just have to reset it. So I'm just kind of deciding to let that play itself out. So when the Steam Deck launched, it didn't have any drivers for Windows. Now it has drivers for Windows. It also didn't have any support for Windows 11 because it didn't have the TPM module enabled. And now it has that turned on. So like they're still very much working on this thing. Like there is a lot to come and there's a lot to do. So I am just going to let that one go for a little bit and revisit it in probably 6 months when they come out with an actual like dual boot option.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
One thing I did try on the OS kind of front was I did try Xbox game streaming, because remember, I have Game Pass Ultimate, which includes the streaming thing for Xbox.
That's right. And you essentially can run this in a browser, right?
That's exactly what you do. So you actually drop into the desktop mode, use the little like app store on the Steam Deck, and install Microsoft Edge. And then Microsoft has a support document for how to put Edge into Steam and add a bunch of little command line arguments to it to make it open to the right page and to set the resolution to match the Steam Deck's resolution. So like I have it added as like a little Xbox Cloud Gaming tile in my Steam library on the Steam Deck. And all it does is it runs Microsoft Edge with a certain set of command line arguments that runs it in 1200 by 800 mode and all sorts of details or whatever. And then I logged in once and it remembers with cookies, just remembers that I'm logged into my Xbox account. And then it just lets me, pick from the list and stream whatever game I want.
Wow. That might get me to up my subscription.
Yeah, it's really neat. Like it's like GeForce Now, which we talked about before, but it's obviously it's Microsoft. It was a pretty good experience. I mean, I tried to play Sea of Thieves for about 5 minutes. I mean, I wasn't, a thorough play session, but it did feel a little bit laggier, than playing it natively on my gaming computer. Because I was like, oh, this will be perfect because I play Sea of Thieves with a controller anyway.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, well, the Steam Deck has the same buttons as the Xbox controller, so it should be easy enough. And I did know what all the buttons did, and the buttons all did what they were supposed to do. But there was just a little more lag than I wanted, in terms of input lag for the streaming. So maybe that was my home internet. Maybe that was something else, but it was just not quite right.
Yeah. Have you tried Forza? That would be the other one that I would boot up right away.
I should try that. I did not, but I should definitely give that a try. It's super easy because you just, pick a game on the web thing, and then it just like says, hang on a second. And it's like, booting up a virtual Xbox somewhere. And then it just pops you in the game and you're there.
That's so cool. Yeah, I wonder if do you know if your Steam Deck is connected 2.4 or 5 gigahertz? Because 5 gigahertz might lower your ping a little bit. But other than that, this has always been the problem with cloud gaming is that latency. And again, like for a lot of games, it really wouldn't matter. You could play like Slay the Spire, you could play probably Vampire Survivor, you could play any card game, you could play Civ, you could play anything turn-based. Sea of Thieves is probably okay in most situations to have a 100 ping essentially, but Forza is pretty forgiving actually, but it would be annoying. I could see how it could be annoying, but I bet there's ways to improve it. I honestly think that you could probably get it to a point where it's barely noticeable.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is probably doable. I'm gonna give it a try and see, because Forza might be. I'm not that picky on stuff like Forza, as long as it doesn't feel mushy. And that was the problem with Sea of Thieves, is that it felt a little bit mushy. So we'll see. I also have this problem when I do the Xbox game streaming where I don't know how to get out of it. Like I just have to press the Steam button and then just like say exit this app and like just hard quit the browser. I mean, it's like closing the browser tab. It doesn't hurt anything, but it's just kind of like I don't know how, like there's no home button, for the Xbox UI to be like, okay, I'm done with this now.
I mean, I bet that's the right way. You quit the game, which I assume brings you back to the Xbox Cloud browser page, and then you just quit the tab.
Yeah, I guess I would have. I just couldn't. When I was playing Sea of Thieves, I didn't have a good way to like exit it. And then I know you can quit to desktop, but since this is an Xbox streaming thing, I don't think it actually has the quit game like thing on it because it's made for an Xbox. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So we've mentioned Guild Wars, Dota, Factorio, Sea of Thieves. Have you spun anything else up?
I did play a little bit of Hades because, I play Hades on the Switch. So I wanted to kind of get a side-by-side feel for Hades. And that was actually pretty cool. Like it worked pretty well. That was another one where I figured that I would be okay with having it be like slower frame rates, and I ended up turning it up again. And I don't know if I needed to, but I felt like it helped when I turned it up to 60 instead of down to 40. And that one is, and this is all just for battery life management. And I just kind of decided I didn't care because I'm in my house and I can plug in. 40 is a weird number,
though. Why 40 and not 30?
Well, so you can do 30 also. So when they did this most recent update, they said, and we're letting you do 40 frames per second. And why we're doing 40 frames per second is because in terms of frame time, it's exactly halfway between 60 and 30. So like 30 is 33.3 and 60 is 16.6. And they said something about it being halfway between, but I don't know that I really believe them because I would think that 45 would be in between 60 and 30, but
That's
said it was better.
Generally how math works, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if it has something to do with the fact that like 40, 60, and 30 are all divisors of 120 somehow. But I'm not sure why they made a big deal out of 40.
Is it 120 hertz screen?
No, it's a 60 hertz screen, I think.
I don't know then. That's why I would say a 30 frames per second limit would be better, right? Because 40 you'd get some weird stuttering, or you'd get 2 frames updated in one, or 1 frame. It generally I wouldn't notice it, but it just, I don't know that it would cause mush or it wouldn't, but it would just feel wrong to me.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird, and so like I said, when I bump it up to 60, it does better. And I'm not sure if that's because also they say that you should not put the rate limiter on the game, but let the Steam Deck do it because it'll be better for like power efficiency for some reason. And I think that actually screws up the game sometimes because the game like gets a little stuttery when it, like the GPU basically tells it can't keep up. So I'm wondering if it has to do with the optimization of the game itself.
Gotcha. When you pumped it to 60, it kept up with 60? It was just obviously drawing more power?
Yeah, it does fine. No problem. Especially for a 2D game like Hades, it's totally fine. I mean, Hades, I think, is rendered in 3D with the cell shade, but no problem. I mean, even Rocket League, I can hold 60.
So Hades is a game where you can play side by side. How did the game feel in terms of the controller, the device in your hand compared to, one to the other? Because the Steam Deck is much larger and I think heavier. I would assume heavier.
Yeah, I had actually been playing with the Steam Deck for like a day, and then I did this little test with Hades, and I picked up the Switch, and I was like, ooh, this thing is tiny. Like, and the Switch is not a small device compared to a phone. Like, the Switch is a little chunky, but compared to the Steam Deck, the Switch is tiny. That being said, the Steam Deck, they have molded the controllers, so the controllers on the Steam Deck don't come off, right? On the Switch, they slide off. The Steam Deck, it's all molded into, kind of one piece of plastic. And so they've done a really good job with the weight distribution and like the feel in your hand. It's like they designed the Steam Deck for adult hands instead of kid hands. So I think that helps a lot. One thing I will say is that there's these little grip buttons on the back of the Steam Deck, and they are hard to grip. It's almost like the grips themselves. I would wish that they were a little wider, like the part that your hand kind of sits in, to give, like, I don't know how to describe this very well, but essentially there's like 2 pillars that are on the sides of the Steam Deck, that you grip around, and I wish those were just a little bit bigger in diameter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's a little tricky. There's 2 buttons on each side, like for your ring finger and middle finger, and they're kind of cool. Like I had them mapped in Guild Wars to one of them to jump, I think, which is a little bit strange because like jump is usually A. If I was going to do a bunch of jumping puzzles, I probably would do jump as A. But just for like when I was playing around, I was like, I'll just map this because the controller profile I was using didn't have those mapped to anything. So I was like, these won't conflict with anything. I'll just do this for now. So gripping them was a little tricky. But overall, I'd say the feel in the hand is really good. I don't know what it is, but something about the quality of the buttons on the Steam Deck is not quite as good as like an Xbox controller. At least that's kind of what it feels like to me. They're just a little bit different, and not bad, just different. a little smaller, maybe. Yeah, I think they're a little smaller. The controller, the D-pad is not as clicky as the D-pad on an Xbox controller. Like the Xbox controller has very like sharp, tactile, like click buttons, and the Steam Deck has something closer to, but not the same as, like a Game Boy.
Yeah.
I really like the triggers on the Steam Deck because they are analog triggers like the Xbox controller, but the Switch has just kind of buttons. But the bumper buttons on the Steam Deck are a little hard to get to. Like they just require a little bit of an awkward adjustment for your finger compared to an Xbox controller. And even the Switch.
Are they
the
like
Switch,
higher?
Yeah, like your fingers start to fall, like the triggers, you sit nicely on the triggers, your fingers do. And then to kind of come up all the way to where you feel like you're reliably going to hit the bumpers, you have to kind of come above the ridge. So like it's almost like the L2 and R2 buttons are kind of set down, I guess. If you look at it from the side, like if you look at the profile of the Steam Deck, they're set further down than they are on the Xbox. And that might not be true even. I'm kind of looking at an Xbox controller side by side right now, and I'm not sure that that's even true, but something about the curve of them or something makes them feel like they are harder to kind of get to, and maybe they aren't as hard as I think they are. And yeah, I should just get over it. But to get to like the top edge of the device is harder.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the Xbox controller, your hands are kind of angled. And I would say when I hold an Xbox controller, the between the second and third, or the first and second knuckle of my finger is kind of already resting on the bumper, and the pads of my fingers are on the triggers, right? By the picture that you've sent of you holding the Steam Deck, it does not seem that that's how your hand naturally rests on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, it's like your hand is twisted away from the screen of the Steam Deck, kind of more so than it is on an Xbox controller. So your pointer finger and everything, it's very comfortable, but everything is kind of in this natural arrangement such that you have to make a concerted effort to bring your pointer finger up towards the bumpers. And yeah, you can see in the picture, my pointer finger is behind. Like you can't see the finger, the bottom side of my finger in that picture. And that's true when I sit here and look at it too. Like it's starting to kind of fall down the Steam Deck versus an Xbox controller. I can actually see the pad of my finger.
Yeah. It could be that the triggers are more flush with the top of the device on an Xbox controller, but I understand what you're saying. Probably, small detail. These things that we're mentioning, I hate to say it, but Steam Deck 2 will probably address some of it. But
yeah, I'm not ready for a Steam Deck 2. I just spent a bunch of money on a Steam Deck 1.
I know. I assume it will be years. Maybe not decades like it is for Xbox, but years. But they did make a lot of improvements from. I mean, essentially, the Steam controller was the first one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And from the Steam controller to the Steam Deck, this is way better.
Yeah, definitely. No, it is way better. We shall see kind of what the longevity is of kind of the buttons and things. One interesting note about the Steam Deck is that they have an official partnership with iFixit to get replacement parts. So you can actually buy like the actual parts for the Steam Deck and you can replace them yourself from iFixit.
Would you do that?
Which is kind of neat. I mean, if it was out of warranty and like, one of my joysticks started to drift or something, I might. Like if I could pay, $20 to get a new joystick and I'm comfortable with popping the thing open and unscrewing a bunch of screws and swapping this thing out and screwing a bunch of screws back in. I can even solder if I need to. Like, I think it's, I wouldn't want to because I would be afraid that when I put it back together, it wouldn't be quite as solid as it is right now. But it's not like it's water resistant. It's not like it's an iPhone where you have to deal with a bunch of glue because the whole thing is supposed to be, water resistant. So I would be okay with it. Oh, one other thing I did want to point out, and this is not a Steam Deck exclusive thing, so anybody can do this. But there is a game that they came out with called Aperture Desk Job. and it's kind of like the tech demo for the Steam Deck. There's actually a really bad bug where when you first launch it, when you first kind of have the Steam Deck, it won't take any inputs, and it's kind of supposed to be like a controller test game. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but if you just restart the game, it will work the second time. So if you have a Steam Deck and you are like, hey, this thing doesn't work, just try to restart Aperture Desktop. But it's a game that is, based on the name, set in the Portal universe. And it's like, I don't know, it takes 30 minutes to play. So I would just, if you're never going to get a Steam Deck, just go get this thing on Steam. It's free, and play it with a controller, because you have to play with a controller, but you can play it with a controller. You don't have to have a Steam Deck. And it's just a fun little, like a little novella, like a story, like a mini story inside the Portal universe. It's kind of stupid. It's kind of fun. If you like the Portal characters and stuff.
I downloaded this game and have not played it. And I think I'll probably wait to play it.
Yeah, something about having the Steam Deck in front of you, it does have a little bit of a different feel to it. And I would say that for you, based on what I know about you liking to experience things the way they're intended to be experienced, I would say definitely just wait. But if anybody's out there and they know they're not going to get a Steam Deck, or they don't care about that kind of thing, and they just love Portal, you could pick this up and it would be kind of fun.
Well, you were a week late in getting your Steam Deck. I have just plugged my information into the Steam Deck order date calculator, and that's what I mean by you were a week late. You were a week late from this estimate. According to this calculator right here, right now, I should be getting my opportunity to order around August 15th.
Oh my goodness.
So
that's out there.
Not terrible, but not good. My reservation does say Q3, so it's essentially smack dab in the middle of Q3. I don't know how accurate the estimate is, but
yeah, I think they're running a little bit faster now than they were both at the beginning. So maybe that is optimistic. Or pessimistic, and you'll get it sooner than that. I will say that once I got my email to purchase, I purchased it within 10 or 15 minutes of getting the email. And then I received the Steam Deck by Saturday morning. I ordered it on Monday when I got the email, and I received it by Saturday morning.
Yeah, that's...
So it came within the same week, which was nice.
I wonder as they get later and later if they're getting more and more cancellations.
Maybe.
Saying, I don't actually care. Although we are still, I finished my order at 10. It says 10:39? No, 8:39 p.m. So,
oh wow,
and I think
were really late.
I was really late. I tried to do it during the day, and that didn't work. So I came back to it later, and you also came back to it later, but you came back to it later earlier than I did.
Oh well, my later was 20 minutes later. It wasn't 6 hours later.
Well, mine was much later.
Yeah, I was in the first hour, I think. Maybe the hour and a half. But I was very quick kind of on the draw there. And yeah, it took me this long to kind of get there. And there was some debate of whether it would even come in Q2. But happy to confirm it did. So they estimated Q2 for me, and they were correct.
Well, they originally estimated Q1 for you.
Well, okay, yeah, they delayed everybody. But once they had kind of said, we're pushing everybody back by a quarter, they were correct with mine.
No, I'm excited for you. I think this is cool. I am, I don't think it's a terrible thing to be later, just because as you say, they're still very much working on this device, and the OS and the hardware and the everything, right? It's all still actively being worked on as it's in people's hands. So I don't think it's a terrible thing that I'm not going to get mine for a while. It is a little disappointing. I of course would prefer to have it, but I am excited to see what else kind of gets released for it and what else gets, kind of officially supported for it by the time I get it in hopefully August.
Yeah, I will figure out how to get this Xbox controller to work, and then we'll follow up on that sometime in the future. More to come on the Steam Deck.
I know some of you out there have reservations for Steam Deck. I know some of the people that listen to the show have reservations. Let us know if you're. I've also heard that some of you that have reservations are thinking about potentially not getting it. So I'd be interested to know why and take a look at Chris's screenshot and ask all kinds of questions. I have plenty more, and as I think of them, I just shoot them Chris's way, and he does the appropriate consumer testing for me. And so you can get a hold of us, join the conversation, let us know what you're doing. Like Chris said earlier in the show, great plug. You can join our Discord by visiting discord.pnapodcast.com.
If you'd like to read our show notes or catch up on any of our older episodes or drop us an email, you can visit our website at pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com.
If you're enjoying the show, we would love for you to share it with some others that may enjoy it as well.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next time. Jason, last time we spoke, I was waiting on not just a Steam Deck, but also a keyboard.
Yeah, it's been a hardware-filled week for you.
I have gotten like a lot of new hardware in the past 10 days between the keyboard, the Steam Deck, and I also got a new chair for my home office. So I am new hardware central right now. Oh, yeah, new Xbox controller, of course.
Too many changed variables at once. New controller. You're not going to know what is actually improving your life and what's not. That is something. I mean, I hope you like the chair, but I don't know that we're going to cover too much of a chair talk today.
No, we don't need to talk about the chair. The chair is fine. It's an IKEA Marcus for those listening. And I know there's a lot of Marcus fans out there. So it's an IKEA Marcus. I have one now too. It's generally pretty good, I think.
Anyway, this keyboard.
Yes. So I got the Keychron Q3 10 keyless keyboard with Gateron Pro brown switches, and I really, really like it.
I like it too. So I actually had the opportunity to come down there while you got it. And that thing is a beast.
Yeah, so this keyboard weighs 5 pounds on its own, and I did not
very heavy.
Understand that when I ordered it. So yes, it's very heavy. It's very substantial. My first kind of concern of it was that it was very loud on the spacebar. It was very something about it was just it was a totally different sound than the rest of the keys. I reached out to some keyboard aficionados, and they said, no, that's totally normal. The spacebar usually sounds different because it's a big hollow key. And this one actually sounds really good. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I need to adjust my expectations then. So I also had some cheapo keys from Amazon, and I swapped out the keycaps, and that changed the sound a lot. But I did not like those keys really at all because they were kind of subpar. So I put the Keychron keys back on it, the keys it came with, and those were good.
Are you going to return those Amazon ones?
I probably should.
Do it.
I was just actually, I have them. They're all in the box. They're all just right there. I should probably just
return them.
Oh my gosh,
they're already wrapped up. Just return them.
Yeah, I wonder how that would work. I'll have to look into that.
They just came in a bag, right?
No, they came in a box in little trays in a box. But I have the box and the trays, and I put all the keys back in the trays in the box. So they're there. They're fine.
So they're exactly as they showed up?
Yeah, except I think they had shrink wrap over the trays, which I obviously threw away. But
yeah,
other than that,
those.
The box is fine. I would want to tape the box though, because if you try to just put it in one of those little bags they have at the UPS store, they would just get a bag of keys back.
You could just tape it. That's fine. Just put some tape around it. Just return it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You're convincing.
Anyway, back to the keyboard.
Well, so the thing you're talking about with the bag is I also got a set of black switches, which are linear switches. So keyboards, they typically have linear, tactile, or clicky switches, which is the thing that actually makes the electrical contact.
And it came with tactile, right? And that's what I felt on it.
Yes, that was tactile. Yes, and you said, "Oh, needs more click, needs clicky," and I was like, "I don't know about that."
Yeah, I'm a clicky guy.
But yes, the black ones are linear, which means they don't have any bump that you can feel as you type on them, which is I'd never done linear keys before, and I thought like, oh, maybe I'd like those. You know, they'd help you type faster, or they'd like be more like the feeling would be good or something. I do not like them. No.
Thank you. Linear suck, man.
I mean, these ones I'm not gonna return them because they weren't that expensive, and I might want them someday for something else.
It's good to have a set, but like, I do not like linears.
I replaced all of the keys, all of the switches in the letter keys of this keyboard with the black ones. And then put keycaps on top of them, and then like tried to type with them for like 10 minutes. And I was just like, I do not like this experience. So then I took all the keycaps off, popped all the switches off, put all the brown switches back on, and then put the keycaps back on that. And it was much better.
Had this huge sigh of relief.
Yeah, it was so much better. I did also experience my first bent pins when I was doing that. Which caused my keyboard to just like randomly spit out a whole bunch of random letters when I pressed the P key. And then I pulled the switch off the P key, and then I like, found this little bent pin, unbent it, and clicked it in. It made just a P.
I can't say I'm familiar with that problem, but okay.
But yeah, linear switches, not a fan.
No, they're terrible. They don't make any sound. They don't feel like you're pushing anything. Like, they're just weird. They're weird keys.
They were definitely weird. I will say I did register my like fastest ever typing test with them. Like I was just like very, very fast typing test. 141 words per minute, I think. I mean, it was really fast.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool. Like I was like, oh, hey, this is a lot. But I just couldn't keep doing that. I just did not like the typing experience.
I almost want to send you a set of clickies just to see if you like it. You do have to get around the sound thing, because especially for work, the click sometimes comes through the mic or whatever when you're on calls. But
I had that happen with my Browns one time on my gaming computer.
It really makes a difference, though, to me. I like the clicky. The tactiles are good. They're okay. They were good enough. I could live with it. But the clickies that's where they're at.
I'm not buying anything yet, but my next kind of step in the Switch journey is they have something they call strong tactile switches that take a little bit more actuation force and have a little bit stronger bump to them in the tactile department, but they're still not clicky. Like because the clicky keys are like, they have an intentionally like a piece in them that makes the clicky click.
Yeah, it releases and hits back against the keycap.
Yeah, it's like a very particular, like a special extra piece that makes the click in the clicky keys. The tactiles, they don't have that. They have a thing that makes the bump but not the click sound. So I want to try, they have these ones called the Boba U4T switches, but they're like really expensive. They're like, I don't know, somewhere between 60 and 80 cents per switch. And I'm like, that's just a little, like paying, I don't know, $65 for like a whole keyboard's worth of switches. It just seems expensive. So I'm not sure if I'm going to go for those, but someday.
Can you buy 10 of them?
You can, yeah. And you can do that for like, they come in packs of 10 actually. So that's how you do it. I think it's like 10 for $6.50. So they're 65 cents a piece.
You should buy 10 and just install it on like the home row.
That's a good idea. Maybe I'll try that. I want to get one of those, like a switch tester, which is just basically a board that can mount switches into it. And then you get them, they're like, I don't know, 5x5 like spots. So it's just this grid. And then people just put one of each switch on the grid. And they're like, oh yeah, here's my switch tester. Look at all these things. And then they keep like an Excel document of like what name of all the switches are on the switch tester. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, I've seen that. Generally, I find that it doesn't accurately, or it doesn't represent a keyboard well. Like, sure, you feel the individual switch, and I knew right away that I did not like linears by pushing one on that. But like, I don't know that you really feel a difference. I guess what I'm trying to say, like, there's a very big difference between hitting a key with your index finger and hitting a key with your ring finger. And you need the full experience to really understand what a set of switches does.
Yes, I agree. One thing I will say, like final note on the keyboard layout is that I find myself missing the number pad occasionally, because this is my first keyboard I've ever had that doesn't have a number pad.
Interesting. I didn't think you would use it very much.
Well, I use it to type in my PIN on Windows a lot. So like that's one thing. Like I can do it with the home row or with the number row, but like I miss being able to just type it on a number pad. Occasionally, like calculatory stuff I want to do on a number pad. You're right. I don't use it a lot, but when I want to use it, I actually find my hand like floating in space, not touching, like trying to hit things that aren't there. So that's something. They're actually, Keychron is coming out with a Q0, which is just a number pad that I think I'm probably going to pick up.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I like that. Windows though, you don't use Windows Hello?
No, because I don't have a camera that is capable of doing Windows Hello.
Okay.
I just have a plain, boring webcam.
Windows Hello is amazing.
Yeah, I've got a fingerprint sensor on my work laptop, and it works with Windows Hello, and it's pretty cool. But when my laptop is clamshelled, I can't reach the fingerprint sensor.
Yeah. Gotcha. So are you done with keyboards for a while, or like have you already made your next purchase?
No, I am officially not waiting on anything keyboard related. Like I have no purchases outstanding, no group buys, no anything. I did receive one keycap set that's pretty nice, and I really like it, so I'm kind of going with that. I've got my eye on a couple of things that won't even be available to purchase until later in the year, so I'm going to just let that simmer for a little bit. Like I said, those switches are probably on the list someday, but not right now. I'm just kind of trying to like live with the keyboard I have, and I really like it. Like it's really good. Although it has started to get a little bit pingy. I was like, oh no, I can hear a little pinginess to this, and I don't want to fix it, but I don't know how. But I'm trying not to fall down that rabbit hole too hard. So no shelf of keyboards.
I'm sure there's a community out there that will help you with the ping.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But I'm not, buying more bookshelves to fit keyboards on like we talked about last episode.